650,000 barrels per day that we've done is the largest single train, not only in Africa, in the world. And we just wanted to make a point. And
just imagine for a second, what if the world's largest single train refinery wasn't in Lagos? What if that $19 billion behemoth, that mega engine of jobs, trade and development, had been built in Ogun State instead? Can you even fathom it? Can you imagine what that would mean for Ogun State? Well, here's what's interesting. That was the original plan. Yes, believe it or not, Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, once had his eyes firmly set on Ogun for the first functional refinery in Nigeria. But he and the former governor were at loggerheads, and that led Dangote to leave angrily. You see, considering Ogun State in the first place was not even for emotional reasons. The truth is that Ogun was the ideal and most rational choice for a number of reasons. First off, back in the day, all signs pointed to the Olokola Free Trade Zone. Ogun State's coast had been the space and the access to the Atlantic, and the ambition to match Dangote's vision. The Olokola Zone, straddling both Ogun and Ondo states, was earmarked to be the next big industrial hub, a Nigerian Dubai in the making, and at the center of it, Dangote's refinery. It was the perfect plan. But then, Ogun never hosted the refinery again. That leads us to one question. What exactly went wrong? Well, it wasn't technical issues. Neither was it a lack of funding. I mean, we're talking about Aliko Dangote. It also definitely wasn't a change of heart. No. What killed the Ogun refinery dream was something far more familiar in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, politics. You see, Dangote had already acquired the land. The blueprint was set. Billions were on the table. The man was ready to break ground, and he must have thought nothing could stand in his way. But then it happened. Disagreements began to build up between Dangote and the then Ogun State Governor, Ibikunle Amosun.
They needed to have it on record that the factory we are visiting now, Itori, it was because of His Excellency that we came back. That factory was demolished twice. We started building, Ownahomeng demolished it. The second time we started again, he demolished not only the factory, including the fencing. So we left.
And let's be honest, when the richest man in Africa is knocking on your door with an offer to turn your state into an industrial powerhouse, you don't just brush him off, unless ego, pride, or politics gets in the way. And in this case, it seems all three did. I'll let you be the judge of that. So, how did Ogun, with all its coastal potential and free trade ambitions, miss out on hosting the largest refinery in Africa? The answer depends on who you ask. I know the answers are very different. According to Governor Dapo Abiodun, the current governor of Ogun State, it all came down to a personal fallout. A clash between the personalities of Aliko Dangote and the former governor, Ibikunle Amosun. Imagine that, one of the biggest industrial projects in Africa, gone. Not because of technical issues or a lack of funding, but because two powerful men couldn't see eye to eye. Hold your horses first. Before you draw conclusions, Amosun himself has a different version, and it's way more complicated than you think. Let me break it down. First, he points out that the Olokola Free Trade Zone, the original planned site for the refinery, wasn't even Ogun State's solo project. It was a joint venture with the federal government owning 51%, Ogun and Ondo states holding 14.5% each, and the remaining 20% in the hands of private investors. When Dangote bought out that 20%, he became a major player. Sure, but Ogun State, they were still a minority stakeholder. According to Amosun, there wasn't much he could do on his own, even if he wanted to. That said, he insists he bent over backwards to make the deal work. He claims he gave up 10,000 acres of land just for the project. He brought in Dapo Abiodun himself, yes, before he became governor, along with Kemi Adeosun, who was then Commissioner for Finance, to represent Ogun's interests. Not only that, he even brought him some heavy hitters to help smooth things over. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo and Oba Sikiru Adetola. That's not exactly the move of a man trying to sabotage anything, right? But then came the sticking point. Amosun says Ogun State asked for just one thing: that 500 hectares of the land be reserved for the host community in the Ogun waterside. You know, the people who would actually live next to this giant refinery. Now, if you think about it, it wasn't a crazy demand. It was about making sure locals got something out of the deal. Land, jobs, opportunities. But somehow, that didn't sit well with Dangote. Maybe it was one request too many. Maybe it made him question how easy or difficult working with Ogun would be in the long run. Whatever it was, that was it. Dangote packed up and moved the entire refinery project to Lagos. And Lagos? Lagos was ready as always. They had the Lekki Free Trade Zone, the seaport, the roads, the incentives, everything he needed to hit the ground running. No drama, no back and forth. They practically rolled out the red carpet. Today, the refinery is there, not in Ogun. Thousands of jobs, billions in investment, and a brand new industrial hub, all sitting pretty in Lagos. Meanwhile, Ogun is left wondering what could have been. And you have to ask, if things had played out just a little differently, if the egos had been kept in check, if the politics had been put aside, would Ogun be the one cashing in on the biggest industrial project in Africa? Well, let's be honest. Lagos hit the jackpot with the Dangote refinery, like full-on lottery win. Now, what does hosting Africa's largest refinery actually mean for Lagos? For starters, jobs. We're talking thousands of them. From engineers to drivers, to welders, caterers, you name it. The entire Lekki axis turned into a buzzing construction zone, and that activity pumped serious money into local communities. Small businesses, they started thriving. Real estate, prices shot up. Infrastructure, the government had to step in with roads, bridges, and all the bells and whistles just to keep up with the place. And let's not even talk about the long-term money. The refinery isn't just some local fuel pump. It's a game changer for Nigeria's economy. It has the potential to drastically cut down our reliance on imported fuel, keep more money in the country, and maybe, just maybe, fix this never-ending fuel scarcity problem. And Lagos is right there, front and center, soaking up the spotlight and the benefits. Then there's the Lekki Free Trade Zone itself, which has exploded in value. The refinery made it a hotbed for investment, local and international. Businesses are lining up to set up shop around the area, hoping to tap into the refinery's ecosystem. It's like Silicon Valley, but for oil and gas. Now, all this being said, if I were you, I wouldn't count Ogun out just yet. After losing the massive Dangote refinery project to Lagos, a move that still stings, Ogun might finally be on the verge of a major comeback. And leading that charge, none other than Governor Dapo Abiodun. What exactly is he doing? Is this just another round of political promises? Or is this something real happening on the ground? To be fair, Abiodun seems to be playing the long game and playing it smart. From the jump, he's made it clear that his vision is to turn Ogun not just into an industrial powerhouse, but the go-to logistics hub in West Africa. Ambitious? Definitely. But considering the state's proximity to Lagos, its coastal access, and the vast land potential, the vision isn't as far-fetched as it might sound. Let's break it down. First off, he's not just talking about industrialization, he's investing in it. As a matter of fact, a huge win for the state came in the form of the Remo Economic Industrial Cluster. That's a $400 million project in partnership with Arise Integrated Industrial Platforms. It's a massive development aimed at drawing in big manufacturing, tech, and logistics players. In other words, it's Ogun's version of Lekki, and Abiodun wants it to compete toe-to-toe. But here's the thing. Attracting business industries isn't just about building factories. You've got to make it easy for investors to set up shop. That's where Abiodun's focus on ease of doing business comes in. He's tackling 3 pain points that drive most investors up the wall: access to finance, land acquisition headaches, and bad roads. For small and medium enterprises, the real job creators, he's working on easing up loan access and creating a friendlier financing environment. And he's not doing it alone. Abiodun has been cozying up to private investors and global partners through public public-private partnerships. For instance, he's been in talks with Power Africa to bring stable electricity to Ogun. And we know that power is a deal breaker when it comes to manufacturing in Nigeria. No investor wants to spend half their budget on diesel generators. Now, Ogun State has become so attractive. Even Dangote himself is thinking of coming back and doing some investments.
I must really thank you, Excellency, for bringing economic development to Ogun State. And that is why, having seen what you've done, knowing that you've been doing great work, that is why silently we also came back to Ogun State. We had left before. Honestly, we had left before, but right now we are back in full force.
Then, there's land. He's pushing to make it easier and faster for investors to secure land and get paperwork sorted out without jumping through flaming bureaucratic hoops. Add to that his push for better roads and industrial infrastructure. And suddenly, Ogun is starting to look like a serious contender. But here's where it gets interesting. Can Ogun really replicate what Lagos has done with the refinery and the broader Lekki Free Trade Zone? Maybe, maybe not. But the potential is definitely there. Let's not forget, Ogun shares a border with Lagos. It has access to coastal corridors. It already has economic zones. In fact, it's home to Nigeria's first agro-cargo airport and the special agro-industrial processing zone. These aren't just shiny projects to show off. They're tools to draw in the kind of investment Ogun missed out on a decade ago. Of course, there are still hurdles. Ogun has some infrastructural catching up to do. Bureaucratic red tape, while improving, is still a problem in some sectors. But the difference now is the political wheel seems to be aligning with real action. So, can Governor Abiodun pull off what Lagos did, or even come close? Time will tell. But if Ogun keeps up this momentum, invests wisely, and stays focused on being investor-friendly, it might just turn the page on the Dangote refinery saga and write an even better story of its own. But for now, Lagos is the shining light and the best place to invest in real estate, especially the free trade zones. If you're curious about how you can get started investing, contact us.